Council meeting. We'll call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilwoman Coonrod. Sure.
I'm Reverend Ann Pierre, Hiwassee Presbyterian, the Cumberland Presbyterian Church in America. Lord, we come at this time asking that you bless us. We ask that the work that's done here today will be for the good of the people of this city. We ask that you be in the midst to guide the council representatives here today. We ask that those in the audience today would be blessed with your kindness and understanding, and your mercy and grace will follow us forever. Amen.
Have a motion on the minutes? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. We have no special presentation this evening. Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and get started with ordinances on final read, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to amend and lift conditions on property located at 706, 710, and 716 Ashland Terrace, more particularly described herein.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We passed this on first reading last week. In the last week, though, some things have come to my attention. There are tractor trailers parking there overnight, as well as a wood chipper that goes on during the day. So they're doing some things they shouldn't be doing, but I would like to move to defer for 2 weeks while we try to help find another location for the tractor trailers, because this is something that's very important to their business. And they were sort of drawn here without knowing what was being done wrongly. So I'd like to try to take a couple of weeks to see if we can work out a solution for them. So I would move to defer for 2 weeks.
All right, sir, that's February 5th?
Yes.
All right. I have a motion and a second to defer till February 5th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 7721 Standard Gap Road, more particularly described herein, from R1 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone and R4 special zone, subject to certain conditions.
Council Ledford, that's yours. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone an unaddressed property located in the 1200 block of East Main Street, more particularly described herein, from M1 manufacturing zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Let's move on to D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone several unaddressed properties located in the west line of the 1900 block of Roanoke Avenue and formerly known as Harriet Tubman Homes, more particularly described herein from R3 residential zone and R4 special zone to M1 manufacturing zone with conditions, no poultry processing plants, with clarifications noted, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Byrd? Seeing no further lights, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. E, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1038 East Main Street, more particularly described herein from M1 manufacturing zone to UGC urban general commercial zone.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. F, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning an unopened alley in the 1000 block of Beeson Drive to allow for private development as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Henderson. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the unopened 1000 block of James Avenue as detailed on the attached map.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we talked about in the 3 o'clock agenda, Transportation Department did reverse their recommendation. They had first recommended denial, but now they do recommend approval. So moved.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Got it? Okay. H, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning multiple rights-of-way in the 1900 block of Roanoke Avenue, formerly known as Harriet Tubman Homes, to facilitate future development as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Byrd. Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. All right, we have no ordinances on first read, so Madam Clerk, let's go to Resolution 7A, please.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to extend an agreement with Gail M. Goldman Associates for public art consultant services and the creation of a public art master plan for a 6-month term.
It's a pleasure. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. B, please.
A resolution authorizing the city treasurer to renew blanket purchase order number 542380 with Encode Utility Services for a 1-year renewal period with 2 optional 1-year renewal periods remaining for the purpose of utility billing data, quality control, and other support in the amount of $120,000.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. C, please.
A resolution authorizing the appointment of Zachary Phillips as a special police officer unarmed for the McCamey Animal Center to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Gilbert. All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. D, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Human Resources Officer to enter into a contract agreement with Race Forward Government Alliance on Race and Equity, GARE, for consultative services, training, and a racial equity action plan for Chattanooga City Government for a contract term for 1 year in the amount of $88,000.
Councilman Gilbert. Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, E, please.
A resolution approving payment to Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Service, LLC, for renewal of property insurance, difference and conditions, DIC, flood and quake insurance, fine arts floater insurance, and terrorism insurance for 2019 for an annual premium of $396,567.10.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. F, please.
A resolution authorizing the award of contract number W17004201 to Reeves Young LLC of Sugar Hill, Georgia for Chattanooga Wet Weather Combined Sewer Storage Phase 1, a consent decree project in the amount of $46,569,100 with a contingency amount of $2 million for an amount not to exceed $48,569,100 subject to SRF loan approval.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. I think we still have a few details to work out about this contract. I'd like to defer to February the 5th.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to defer till February 5th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
A resolution authorizing the purchasing agent for the city of Chattanooga to enter into an agreement to join the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, NCPA, National Governmental Purchasing Cooperative, which will allow the city of Chattanooga to utilize contracts that have been negotiated through the cooperative.
Council Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. Bonnie, are you here? Thanks. Just for the purpose of this meeting, I want to reiterate the question I'd asked at 3 o'clock, and that joining this co-op does not create any additional hurdles or put businesses that are local here in Chattanooga at any sort of disadvantage with competing with some sort of national cooperative that I want to make sure that that's not an obstacle that we're creating here by joining this co-op.
That's correct, Councilman, it is not.
Okay. And I appreciate your answer at 3 o'clock, which was much more in depth, but I wanted people to know when they read that we're joining something like this, it is in no way intended or has a negative effect on local businesses doing business with the city. So I appreciate your answer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. All right. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Ms. Woodard, it's your turn again already.
Tonight we have 5 purchases for your consideration. The first 2 being on behalf of the Department of Youth and Family Development. First, we have a new blanket contract for milk and dairy products to be awarded to Mayfield Dairy Farms LLC, an estimated annual amount of $170,000. Also, on behalf of the Youth and Family Development Department, we have another new blanket contract for bread and bakery products to be awarded to Bimbo Bakeries USA, an estimated annual amount of $114,000. The remaining 3 purchases are on behalf of our Public Works Department. First, we have a blanket contract renewal for tire recapping and retread repairs to be awarded to Best One Tire, an estimated annual amount of $118,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for liquid sodium hypochlorite to be awarded to Olin Corporation, an estimated annual amount of $4.5 million. And finally, we have the purchase of OSHA 10 and 30-hour general industry and construction training to be awarded to the University of Tennessee Center for Industrial Services, and the amount of the purchase is $36,125.33.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just get one clarification on 541661 Public Works, the liquid sodium hypochlorite? Wow, that's a lot. And that's used in what process?
It is used at the wastewater treatment plant. But as far as the specific application, I would have to defer to the department.
I think Mr. Stone's coming up behind you to shore you up there.
Good evening, Council. That is disinfectant. It's bleach.
Okay, very good. I knew it was an important.
That's a good answer.
Sometimes I just like a simple answer, Mr. Stone, so thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure of the council. Second. All right, I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to other business. Is there any other business the council would like to discuss this evening? Councilman Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
You know, I think everybody mostly here seen the incident that happened in March when it come down to a young man getting beat. I have concerns about this because even the process, even coming out the car with the gun turned sideways like they do in the movie theaters, or when the officer gave a command and the young man touched the car with the command and the guy said, if you don't trust the car, I beat your, everybody know what that word is. And the young man did this, and then I have issues and concerns about someone, before you even reach the young man, to ball your fist up like you're going to do what you said you're going to do. That's an issue with that. There's an issue once you got to the young man and the young man fell some kind of way, and then you start proceeding on hitting that young man, not one, not two, but several times. I have concerns about that. I have concerns about the timeline, because my understanding, someone had to see this in that department. Someone had to see it. Because for the DA to get it and for the lawyer to get it, someone had to pass it on from our side to them. So someone did see this prior to now. I have issue with that, because it's telling me that whoever seen this felt like it was justification for it. I have issues with that. I have concerns about, well, one of the things I would like to do is ask the DA for an independent investigation. When it's a high profile, most cases, we get an independent investigation on that particular situation. I'm asking for that as a council person. I'm also looking at, hopefully he'll look into the IA files to see if there's anything else that this particular officer has done that would increase some of the things, or try to get an understanding of the negativity that he might have that's continuing on in his services. I feel like that one of the things that I would like to do, I know our colleagues were speaking earlier about what can council do. You know, we've been talking about sensitivity and things of nature, but never had no teeth in it. So I'm asking you, Mr. Lawyer, that when the city was formed, currently, we had a charter, and then we had ordinances. I'd like to know, when did we, as council, not this council, but in the past, gave all power to one person, which that would be whoever the chief may be. I'd like to know when we did that, and I also want to look at that. Since I'm the chair of HR, I would like to see what we can do to balance that out, because one decision should not be just one decision. It should be, when it comes to disciplinary and when it comes to policies, it needs to be looked at besides one individual.
Yes, sir.
I want that to look at. I'm requesting that. Yes, sir. Also, you know, we just had Martin Luther King's celebration yesterday. And if you look at the history of Martin Luther King, he did march, but there's more to it than the march. What he did was to change policy, to change law. Because back in the day, we could not even probably assemble like we are now, because we were prohibited for doing this. We could not go in restaurants in the front door. We could not drink from the same water fountain. That was a law, and it was wrong. We need to look at things and policies now that give someone, think he has the power to do the things that he did to that young man. No one should have that much power. We have some great policemen. 95% are great, but that 5% need to go. They need to be terminated and need to leave, because we don't need that in Chattanooga. We're trying to grow as a city and not have this negativity. So I'm asking my colleagues if we start looking at these things and hopefully make a change in it. One of the things that also I think we need to look at is a review board. If you wasn't at the meeting last night, you missed a good sermon, because the man preached, and he preached on having the ability to be at the table. He said that it's two tables. It's the kids' table and the adult table that make the decisions. we need to start being at that adult table to make these decisions. Right now, you have, I think, 3 and 3 for this board. But the final decision, you have a 4th person be another policeman. We need to look at that. We need to have these people that's on this board to have teeth, not just to be on the board. Because being on the board don't mean nothing. It will be no change, it will be nothing. So we need to start looking at that and see what we can create so they can have the teeth, so they have the ability to speak, to have the ability to make a change, and not just say it and nothing happens. So I know that some things I brought up to you in the past, CPI, which is a way of restraining someone without force, I think it's worked. It worked in a lot of institutions. It should work with this. You might have to mix it some, but it does work. I think the sensitivity part needs to be done, not just for the new people, but for all of them. Every year, it should be in service. And accountability. If you don't follow the guidelines and the guidelines, it should be something happen. It should be say, this was going to happen to me. And we need to look at that. We need to look at what is it. I know they say they have one, but what is it? I want to see what it is. I know we're having a meeting next week, and I know that we're going to discuss this, but I would like to see these things when they come to the meeting. Because I know we have asked already about policies. I haven't seen them yet. We had an in-service at 1:30 about, and I asked that question about someone getting beat down in that meeting. And I said, where are the policies? I haven't seen them yet. They say it's in a big book. Okay, bring the book. It takes us time to look through. We need to look at it and see what we can do to make sure that we won't have the same incident anymore. So I appreciate your time. I'm sorry for the delay in the meeting because the meeting went pretty fast. But I want to see a change. I want to see a change in Chattanooga. I want to see a change in our police department and also in our city as a whole. And I think together we can do this if we look at this.
I agree. Thank you, Councilman. After today at 1:30, I think you already know how we all also agree adamantly with that, but I've got 2 things to clarify. Phil, Councilman Gilbert brought up 2 different points. One was asking the DA for an independent investigation. Do you know what the process is to make that happen?
You, as a body or as an individual, could make that request to the district attorney based upon the information that you have. You can turn that information over to them and see what he would be willing to do. Yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman, are
Yes.
you asking the DA individually, or are
Yes.
you asking the council
Well,
as a whole to?
I'm asking it, but as a whole, I can't speak for you. I can speak for myself. I want it to happen, but
I do too.
I can say if council want to join in, I'd be more than happy to.
Absolutely.
Everybody agree with this?
Is everybody? Yep.
No, you agreed to avoid criminal act. I'm saying investigation. I'm saying instead of our police investigating it, they would investigate it, a separate entity. That's after the investigation.
All right, Councilman, so I'm going to put this out there a little bit different, a way of handling things that we may have. I'm going to ask this body if they are in favor of issuing a request to the DA to do an independent investigation of this incident. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you, sir. Phil, make
Thank
sure
you.
that takes place.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Second part, Oversight Board. Just point of clarification, Phil, if you know the answer to this.
Yes, sir.
I know we've brought it up before, and we've heard a breakdown of how it's formed. But who forms this particular board? Is this an administrative board? Is it a council board? Do you know the answer to that question offhand?
The Administrative Review Committee, Jason may be able to give us a little bit more of the input on there, but it is created by the police chief in that regard here in Chattanooga.
What about the structure of the board? Who governs the structure of the board?
The structure of the board is, I believe, laid out, but they try to get individuals in the community as well as individuals that have some law.
No, structure as far as how many, how often they meet, that type of thing.
Jason, you'll have to give them that information.
Okay.
at the time.
If you don't know, would you just please get that back to the council so that we can address Councilman Gilbert's question on that? I'd appreciate it very much.
We will get that to you.
All right, thank you. Sorry, council, for those clarifications, but I thought that was very important to get done. Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair.
Since Russell opened up that Pandora box again, because it wasn't quite closed at the 1:30 discussion, but all of that, what he said, we agree with it on top of what was said at 1:30. And for me, outside of the investigation, I'm full force for full prosecution. We already discussed that. I think Russell probably missed part of that meeting, but for me, it's about the parity of treatment, regardless of the race of the individual, religion, sexual orientation, any of those things. And as we constantly state in previous acts, that historically, like this has been something the police department has done in the African-American community, and it's just not acceptable at all. And when we talk about, like earlier, when we talk about we want to have, be free of the barriers caused by racial biases and systemic biases, that's part of it, right? That's part of it. And if we as a council refuse to, not act on it to correct it, then we're part of the problem as well, right? And we no longer can afford to be a part of that problem. And all of that lip action just don't move me at all. We need to start making sure that the action is actually done, right? For 2 years, we just continue to be like, oh, we're going to give them a slap on the wrist. Nah, we're not giving slap on the wrist anymore. If a police officer get out of line, then you need to be held accountable to your action. And if that means that you're going to be prosecuted, going to jail, lose your job, because if it's a regular citizen that act in that manner, we're going to hold that citizen accountable as well. But outside of the police, I wanted to make sure that I did my due diligence before we leave tonight and recognize Representative Tommy Brown, who's here in the audience tonight. So if you don't know the history behind this great woman, she served as our representative for 20 years and representing District 28, and she also was instrumental in leading the Brown versus the Board of Commissioners. So thank you so much for all the services that you've done and the great work for our district and continue to do in our community.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. It's really not too much you can say after my two colleagues expressed the concerns of all of us. And this, at some point in time, it does have to stop. And the fact that it's in our backyard now, we're going to show you as a community that we are going to address this by all means necessary to make sure that this doesn't happen in our community again. The chair for public safety, Mr. Chip Henderson, has we're having a meeting Tuesday, agenda session where we're going to get briefed 1:30. Okay, at 1:30, where we're going to get briefed on a lot of the things that went on concerning this, and we can send our chairperson questions. So I asked you as a community, if there's any questions that you would like for us to ask about this situation, please email us and let us know of those questions that we can send to our safety chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman, do you have another?
Yeah, I did.
Please.
And I just want to say to the citizens, now this was an act that the Chattanooga Police Department was solely responsible for. The room in here should have been packed, standing room only, because this is an injustice. It shouldn't take for an incident to be isolated on a national level for this room to be packed. It shouldn't take that. It needs to be packed for every injustice that happens in the city of Chattanooga, because although it wasn't on a national level, this young man matters too. It matters. It happened locally, and it matters to us. So like they said, we're gonna make sure that this is handled in the right way, and we're gonna push forward for the next step, whatever that is. So if you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to add to that bucket, reach out to us so we can ask those questions. We know we can't reach everybody that we serve in the city of Chattanooga by knocking on the door, making phone calls. We don't have that much time in a week, right? So we want to make sure that we're hearing the voices of the community, and we also want to make sure we're not giving out incorrect information to the community that we serve about this incident. Thank you.
Councilman Gilbert, you got it back.
Yeah, one more thing. You know, in the past, you already know about time and dates. I want to make sure that whatever we come up with, we give a time and a date and make sure we follow it. Because a lot of times, people depend on us having been so busy that we kind of just let it go. I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that we have a timeline that this is going to happen, the timeline how it's going to finish, and what the results of it. So I'm going to ask the council that we need to keep up on this, like Councilwoman Coonrod said and Councilman Birdhouse said, that we need to make sure this happens and actually understand ourselves what's going to happen if that person do not follow the guidelines.
Yep, agreed. Thank you, sir. Is there any other business? Councilman Oglesby, see your light.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have someone in the audience that will be leaving us soon. And from my perspective, she's done a fabulous job in covering City Council, doing a really effective job in communicating what happens here day in and day out. And I really appreciate her because she has been extremely fair and impartial and has told it like it is. And she's retiring and she's gonna be missed. So Judy, I just want to tell you how much I love you. You've been like a little sister to me. But you know, your journalism style and your coverage of the City Council is greatly appreciated. And I just want you to know, don't become a stranger. Keep following us, and if you don't mind, I'll call you from time to time to pick your brain. But I won't ask you to come to the City Council meetings, okay? All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, Judy. Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, that takes us to committee reports. Councilwoman Burrs. Councilman Byrd. Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Gilbert.
We had HR gave an update and educational session on one of the things that we're putting in place called GEAR. So I think that is a good thing. It's going to show bringing people together when it comes to race, to understand one another because of race. So it's a great opportunity for this to happen. I appreciate her putting it to us, and I'm looking forward to us council having some sessions too.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As already alluded to, we will have a Public Safety Committee meeting next Tuesday, the 29th. We're going to have it at 1:30 during our strategic planning meeting. Will be for an educational session for Chief Roddy to come and present to us questions that we give him concerning the community oversight board, procedures of internal investigation, the hiring practices, and the sensitivity training that the police department participates in. So if you do have questions pertaining to those items, please get those to me. Let me get those to Chief Roddy so that we'll have our questions answered.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Ledford.
No report, sir.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting today, and we'll have another one on February 5th after agenda session. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Oglesby. No report. All right, thank you, sir. That takes us to the time in our agenda of recognition of persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the council this evening? Yes. Phil?
Anybody wanting to come up and speak to the council this evening, there are procedural rules have been adopted for the last 2 years regarding this portion of the meeting. People can address the council only from the microphone here that's provided up front. You can address the council only on matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority. You have to limit your remarks to 5 minutes unless permission for additional time is provided. Can't use vulgar or obscene language in your presentation. If you're going to use the floor, do not use it to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address any statements to the council as a whole, not to individuals on the council. And the chair is prohibited from recognizing anyone, neighborhood association or organization, on non-agenda matters for more than 2 times in a 30-day time period. I believe you're okay, Ms. White.
Thank you. The question I have, and Councilman Gilbert, this is not for you because I'm so appreciative of you, but for the remainder of this council, what about Diana Watt? What about Avery Gray's daughter? What about the women who stepped forward with the accusations of rape from Officer Desmond Logan? What about those who were affected by Officer Desaline? What about Officer Trumbo or Craig Joel, who were drinking on the job, and they had interference from the sheriff's department, which allowed them to resign, which means they get to go be someone else's headache and problem, which means that they didn't have any disciplinary action? While you will seek justice for one man, what about the others? And why are we not speaking to the very obvious culture of policing here in the city of Chattanooga? The fact that I sat down with the mayor and the chief of police alike, and no change has happened since that summer. The egregious behaviors have continued to rage on, and this body has heard people like Jesse Parker, who came and spoke before you, Avery Gray, who came and spoke before you, and who requested an independent investigation for these individuals. And what about the tons of stories that never make the news, that people don't even know? The victims who are too afraid to come forward because their lives will be picked apart in the media if people find out, and they already know that, yes, you could come down to city council, but what's the point if you speak and you don't see no change? And what's the point if the policy, the law, doesn't change? In his letter from a Birmingham jail for the man that a lot of people fake celebrated yesterday, Dr. Martin Luther King said we have a responsibility to rebel against unjust laws, such as laws that would divide people based on color, such as laws that will give mortgages to white individuals and discriminate against black people and allow their neighborhoods to be gentrified for the purposes of growing the city. For whom? Is it for us? I did not see this council sitting with Ken Chilton, learning at the feet of someone who understands the very problem of what people got offended by saying Negro removal, which is the truth, that we have been pushed out of this city. And do we have a place at the table? Do we really? Are you guys interested truly in leveling the playing field? And if that was not a dangerous thing, then why is Dr. Martin Luther King not with us? Because when we talk about leveling the playing field, we're not talking about equality. We're talking about economic justice. And what that means is we're going to stop a money train of going to certain areas and certain individuals and making sure that it is justice for all. And so if you're not going to seek to change the culture, you will remove a little bit of officers, but nothing overall will change. And further, it is absolutely crazy and insidious to believe that somehow if the very police chief who has allowed these instances to continuously occur, that somehow he's going to offer something to our officers or people on a board that he's going to manage. If he can't manage his officers, what can he tell the people? And who's responsible for the police chief? The mayor and the sheriff. When do you guys call accountability right where it's supposed to lie? It's not just with this body. If you guys try to do things within your own strength, you're not strong enough. That is supposed to be the balance and checks of government, that we lean on one another for help and that we lean on one another for work. And if you're not going to bring the sheriff into the conversation and hold him accountable, and you're not going to bring the mayor into the conversation, or I guess I've heard that Stacey Richardson is running the city. I don't know who it is, but whoever that is, bring them into the conversation and hold them accountable as well. Because it wasn't this body that just elected the police chief, it was also the mayor. And so there is a responsibility that is on the shoulders of various levels of government. And if we can't get justice in here, if I can't get justice on the executive, and I sure as hell can't get justice in the courts, what will the people do except rise up and we'll get justice in the street? And we're there. We're there. That's why we're pushing for an independent community oversight board, because we're sick and tired of coming before bodies and people and nothing changes. And so all I'm saying is, you guys should apologize to the people who came before you, and now is when you decide to wake up and do something about it. Y'all owe people an apology.
Thank you, Marie. Good job. My name is Tiffany Rankin, Secretary of Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association. I have two issues to discuss. Community oversight. I personally think it should be totally autonomy from the city, the legislative body. It should be community-based. Last Tuesday, we had an individual come in, part of the MLK celebration, to discuss and let us know as far as what was happening with their community oversight in Nashville. It's not attached to no legislative body. It needs to be totally autonomy. And I had wished that basically that decision that you voted on last Tuesday would have been deferred so we would have had more participation this week. I'm glad to see Mr. Leroy and Ms. Gloria in the audience. We've been working on low affordable housing since 2013 for the senior ministers, for the senior people here. And we did come to you asking for a low affordable housing. As of today, you do see Negro removal. People are being displaced, and there's nothing been done. I talked to Councilman Gilbert about this recently. We need inclusionary zoning, and we need it fast because we are being displaced from our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rankins.
Good evening. My name is Sherman Matthews. First of all, let me say thank you all, the City Council and the Mayor, for helping us with the auditorium and the parade for this year's ML King celebration. We really appreciate that. Second, my other concern is that the officer that's guilty, what we've done to our young kids, or young black kids, is use the RICO statute, which means that if you associate or if you're a member, you don't have to be where the crime has been committed. You're guilty by being a member or by association. I don't understand why we're talking about one officer when there were two other officers that are complicit by not doing anything. If you're going to change the culture, then you have to change the attitude. Why would two other officers stand and watch a person get beat? We can't just look at one person. We've got to look at everybody involved. Did you understand if you are aware, at least it used to be in Tennessee, if you're aware that a child is being abused and you do nothing, that you can be charged, that you can be put on the list? So we need to look at everyone involved. And I assure you, if you change the culture, if you hold everyone accountable, things will change. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Ron Ray, Lookout Valley. Seems the tone of tonight's discussion is about accountability. Mine is a little different. An article I read in the Chattanoogan on Sunday, I'll read you just a piece of this. It said organizers had planned only a rally and not a march because of the cost. She said it would have cost around $5,000 to pay for police officers and other charges. She said those taking part were told that a march would not be sanctioned and that traffic laws should be obeyed. She said the city last year provided funding assistance for the march, but said it could not help this year. That's my question right there, is should the city have been providing funding for that women's rally that happened Sunday? I don't think so. I think I'd like to know who provided that funding last year, why they provided it, things of this nature, so we can assure that the city is not helping fund a political rally. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody.
Is there anybody else who would wish to address the council?
Dwight Smith, Political Action for the NAACP. First, I want to applaud the council members that did address this problem, which is very urgent in the community. The black community is in ruin right now with things that have gone on for some period of time. And you cannot leave the power in the hand of the police chief. You cannot expect an officer of the law to not protect another officer of the law. You cannot leave this power on one person. This power should have been changed some time ago. Thank you for bringing it up. I sincerely hope that you hasten to make this change as city council and bring that power within a governing body that will address issues as they happen and not leave it in-house where it has always and continues to be all over this country, buried in the archives. Let's not do that again. Let's please hasten to take the power from within the police department, and let's put the power where it belongs, with the government here. You are the governing body, and we look to you guys to make this change and stop what's going on in our streets. We're asking that the police officers involved be dismissed. I don't see any need to have a police officer on the street with a weapon when he has continually exercised the right of prejudice with that weapon. That police officer should have been taken off the streets immediately. We're asking that he not be paid, sitting at home getting paid for a crime that you know just by looking at the video was a crime. Automatically, this officer should have been dismissed and taken off the street. Now, I understand there's a process, but something of this magnitude, something that has been seen throughout the public, it's more than a process. It's a matter of urgency. And we, the body of the NAACP, we are asking that this officer be terminated, and all officers involved with the county and the city that are involved in racial discrimination throughout this city. We're also asking that an independent investigation be done throughout the department. And the department has to be rid of racism. If we have officers, black or white, red or brown, that are racist on the departments, they need to be terminated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight.
I'm James Mathis, Secretary of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County NAACP, and Councilman Gilbert, we agree totally and unequivocally with everything that you had to say, and we stand with you, and we stand against the injustices that are happening here. Some years ago, I was beat by the police, but there was nobody there with a camera to video it. But what I want to let you know is that, and the audience to know, is that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock up at 106 Walnut Street, we'll have the NAACP will sponsor a People's March against police brutality. And we invite everyone to come out with us and stand with us. And we'll also have people from the national office here. We'll do a press conference and we'll have a rally. And we want to join in with well-thinking people in this city to bring a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matt. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Sure did.
Blessed, I hope. Amen.